Hey guys, how are you? I am doing well. I am out here for my walk. It's almost dark, but I still have some light left, so I wanted to do a quick video about something that was on my mind. I have often posted and said for years that, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. I hope the noise, I'm sitting kind of on the road, I hope it's not too much. I'm going to try to talk louder. But yeah, He calls, He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And I had posted this on Facebook like years ago, and I got a response from several known Christian associates of mine that said, if my dad had a Facebook, this would be on his page, and several other positive responses and likes and loves and things like that. And it just stuck with me over the years because I never considered at that time myself called. I had been called, but I didn't know what it was. It didn't make any sense to me at the time. I kind of shut it out and didn't think about that moment or several moments that I had encountered where I felt called. I kind of just pushed it away because I thought, I'm called to be a mom. I'm called to be a baker. I'm somebody's wife. I'm a person that helps anyone that I think needs my help in any way that I can help. And on bad days I would just pray for God to send me someone that needs my help. Now I pray for God to do that on all days, no matter if it's what I don't ever consider anything good or bad. If it's happening to me, it's happening to me for a reason, and I need to endure it. I need to appreciate it. I need to put the most of who I am in this moment into it and do what God has sent me there to do, either to learn or be a blessing or whatever may present itself in that instance. I need to embrace it, and I do. But lately, some of the things that I have seen has made me question Christians embracing that God would, qualify the called, because there's several stories in the Bible where God does qualify the called. He doesn't call on who's qualified already, meaning like Moses, David, Paul, things like that. But when I have listened to some of these Christian podcasts enough on those presenting to be witches, and that lady has popped up everywhere now. They've gotten her on all the circuits. And it's funny because her story has now progressed from being a witch, and where the interview that I watched where she was a self-proclaimed witch, she didn't really mention anything witchy. But that's what they try to do. It's propaganda for them to include all of what they call New Age into like a witch category or a cult, and try to lump them all together to where just anything of the sort. It's a blanket statement towards anyone that does anything with crystals or anyone that does anything with astrology or yoga. It's all inclusive. It's their propaganda. So, but now that she's furthered along in the circuit into other podcasts, she's talking about blood rituals, and she's talking about like her story's getting progressively richer and sinking its claws in deeper, and that is not at all what she presented herself to be in the first place. But because I listened to that first podcast, it's popping up in my feed, a bunch of other things, and I have listened to I can't remember the name of it. There's I think it's The Deep End or something like that. It's two guys. They sit in their office. Sometimes they all sit in the same room, but they have guests. Sometimes they just talk to each other. I think one of the guys' name is Taylor. I listened to one of those because the guest that he had on was really interesting. Anyway, it keeps popping up. But a couple of people that I don't listen to, and I haven't ever listened to before, have popped up, and they have this girl on there who is a former OnlyFans star, and she is talking about her walk with Christ and how she came up out of doing pornography and racy things for income, and that her father was a preacher at one time. Shocker, because a lot of PKs run the opposite way. They do what they're supposed to do, but their heart is often not in it because they rebel, because they've been made to do it. Any kid that has been made and forced, and doesn't matter if it's PK or not, they're gonna rebel. It's gonna turn on the parents for not being more lax, for not being more open and just listening and talking instead of forcing and restricting nonstop. People are naturally curious, and especially kids when they get in their teenage years are going to rebel. So it happens. I was married to a PK, so I know. But people are hating on this girl so bad because they're saying she's lying. They've taken excerpts from other interviews that she did on a podcast that was not Christian related and turned it around on her, and they're hating on the podcasters that have her on. 2 different ones that I have seen have her on, and one had her on for a second time and confronted her about all of the hate that she's received from his Christian audience, and that he went online to look at the video that they had taken an excerpt from, and he himself said that it was in great distaste because he saw obviously what she was saying, that they had only cut out what fit their narrative and were spreading it around, and that she wasn't saying what they were trying to say she was saying at all. She was actually saying the opposite, but they geared it to what they wanted it to be as propaganda for their audience. And so I just wanted to ask you guys, and you can feel free to comment. I've left my comments open for quite a while. But let me know how you feel about God qualifying the called. And when he does qualify the called, why do people have such a problem with it? Why are those that he's calling and he qualifies, why are they not good enough? Why is it their judgment at all who God has called and what he has done in their life, and how it's not good enough? Are they liars? And that they go way out of their way to try and discredit this person as being someone that's called. You know, everybody wants to be a chosen one until a real chosen one shows up and they're doing the work. Do you know how hard it is to trust God when you've not had a very deep relationship with him? And I've had a relationship with him, just speaking from my personal experience, but it was never deep until I felt the calling, and then I started noticing that I was in a cycle of toxicity, and that I was not breaking that cycle, and that a lot of the things that I was experiencing were happening to me over and over and over because I wasn't choosing to walk away. And in walking away would be stepping in my purpose and cutting ties with the toxicity, whether that be family, friends, or whoever. It was keeping me stuck and keeping me from stepping into my calling. And then when I did decide to step into my calling and walk in purpose, that is when, you know, your life will all of a sudden become wreaking havoc. Those that had you where they wanted you and kept you from walking in your purpose and kept you in the low vibrations of being hurt and trampled on and abused, when you started slipping from their grasp, they wanted to do anything to keep you in a life of sin, in a life of low vibrations, in toxicity, in constantly asking yourself, why is this happening to me? These people are supposed to love me. You know, all of these sad victim mode, which we are never a victim. You know, God brings those things into our life to get us on our purpose. You know, he's elevating us by getting those things out of our lives that were never meant to be there. And if he didn't take action and divinely intervene, then we would have stayed there forever. We would have stayed there forever, and we never would have stepped into our purpose doing what he called us to do, what we knew that we were called to do, but we stayed in a comfort zone. I don't think people realize how hard it is to break out of those cycles and to get on your path and walk in your purpose and to pray for God to help you get there. And whatever way he's going to help you get there, it's often, most of the time, if not all of the time, going to be painful, because you're going to have to let go of things that you love so much and that you've built your world around. You've identified with it for years and years and years, probably your whole life. But once you break away from that and you start learning to build a new foundation with just him, and letting him realign you with the things that are meant to be in your life, that do align with your purpose and are not harmful to you, things that vibrate the same, and individuals that have done the same amount of work on themselves to love themselves and to love others, so that you can receive back what you're worthy of, what you deserve. That is so hard. And then you have to come up against the opposition of people that don't think with their harsh judgment that you deserve to be there, that you have done enough work to satisfy them to be where you are, when it has nothing to do with them at all. It's God. It's between you and God. It's a very personal thing. It's a personal walk. That's why I say to get rid of the middleman altogether, because there are so, like, you wouldn't need the church, and the church would fail miserably at making any kind of money to support themselves or to support their endeavors or any sometimes self-serving agendas if you weren't there. So they try to teach you to turn away from and cling to everything that they have to offer there, so that you don't see a way to cut them out ever, to be your own source, to connect to God, source, whatever you want to call it, by yourself and not need anyone. You can go there, sure, for worship, you could go there for fellowship, you could go there for anything that you want, anything that helps you along the way, to strengthen your relationship, to help others, to find out what their needs are so that you can pray for them, or you can be there in whatever way that the others may need God to work through them, to help them to get where they need to be, because God works through people. God works through people, but he also will call on individuals and he will qualify them, and it is not up to anyone else to decide other than God who gets qualified and how they get qualified, and whether they've done enough work or whether it's satisfactory to other beings here on earth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I think that girl's name was Nala, and she was talking about how much hate she had gotten, and I was like, I identify with this, even though I've never been, into pornography. I'm sure there's revenge porn out there on the internet via my former partner's obsession with documentation and my willingness to provide it and allow it. I've heard him make comments about how that shit's not free, so I know he's charging for it somewhere. So that's a direct quote from him when he was drunk one night. People will tell you everything that you need to know. But I love the freight trains here. I love the crickets outside. I know the traffic's kind of loud, but I'm sitting in the ambiance. And it seems right, so I'm doing it. But yeah, I know I haven't done the things that she done, but I was identifying with her story, and I felt that she was very, very, very brave in going on this circuit, especially with the people that are receiving hate on her behalf because they're interviewing her. They're just having her on there, interviewing her, and they're receiving hate because how dare you interview someone that we don't think is worthy of God's love. Just like that Lecrae guy said, he can redeem a strip club, but he can't redeem a stripper. It's not for you to redeem. Who put you in that position? Why did you ever feel like you needed to be in that position? It is not for you to redeem. It is not your decision at all. It is God. So why would you be so judgmental as if you were God, or even go the extra 50 miles to say, it is my decision, and we judge that this person's a liar and that God didn't call them, and that he didn't redeem them, and that he didn't do what he chose to do with his chosen ones in qualifying them to be called. They answered the call. They did the hard work. Where a lot of people just sit behind their keyboards, or they get on podiums and they condemn and say it's demonic, or you're going to hell because you're going to see Jane Goodall and she talks about evolution, or, you know, whatever reason that they say that you're going to hell, whatever fits their narrative at the moment. Why are they even thinking that they're in the position? Did God call you to be his judge here on earth? I don't think that's what he meant by it, if he did, because still he has the final say. He's not going to put anyone above him by saying, go to earth, judge these people. If I call them and they do this hard work to leave behind all of these sins and this life that was obviously not their path, if they have cut people and money sources out of their life that were not worthy of where I am about to put them, they will only hinder their progress and the work that I want them to do for me here on earth. How hard that was for them to do, for you to just stand up in 10 seconds and say, no, it's not good enough for me. They're lying. This person cannot be redeemed, will never be redeemed, was not called, did not do the work. How that doesn't make them opposing God, that you are opposing God. Should someone call you demonic? Should someone say that you are working in the spirit of the devil, that you're an agent because you're doing the opposite of what God is trying to do in this person's life, and you're making yourself a judge where you never ever will be? It is God's decision, not yours. The proof is in the pudding, and you are not God to be the judge of that pudding. Let them do their thing. You know, if they are not walking in their purpose, if they are faking it at all, they will fall. God will bring them to where they should be for walking in a lie, for manipulating and trying to profit even off of, you know, this false story. But they aren't getting paid to tell these things on these podcasts. They're going there to dispel the lies if they go more than once. And I thank God that the people that have the podcasts that are being hated on, that are risking their livelihood to continue God's work by interviewing them and not caring about the people that are going to walk away or unsubscribe or come on there with hate comments trying to turn others against them, that they're not letting that deter them from getting to the bottom of what God is doing in their life, in the chosen person's life. I did see on that, I think the Deep End, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the guy's name is Taylor, and he gets on there, and I love the one thing that I saw of the one where he was interviewing a guy. But when he was just on there with his partner, I watched another one because of the topic they were talking about. But in the first few minutes, I changed my mind about him in particular because he was being very judgmental, and he went off on listing discernment and different types of discernment, which was interesting to me. Very interesting, because I talk about discernment a lot. But he said that if someone talks about discernment, then they are probably not working in the spirit of discernment from the Lord, and that it's probably someone that didn't get listened to as a child, and they're just trying to tell everyone and prove this or that or the other, and that it's not real. So he was putting himself in a position to judge. And this is why I tell you guys to not take in the projections of others, because it was obvious that he was triggered by someone talking about discernment, and it probably had to do with him. So he went on his soapbox and was projecting onto others what they were without even knowing. Just a blanket statement on anybody that talks about discernment, whether they're trying to teach others about discernment or give a testimony about a time that they used discernment or how they prayed for discernment and God gave it to them. He was saying that if you talk about it at all, that it probably means that it's not discernment from God. And I can almost 100% guarantee you that this guy got called out by someone, because if you look in the background, he's got like a bar cart in his office. So that's a major red flag. That's like the dirty fingernails. That's like the fly flying around the room. That is the discernment. That is the discernment that I'm talking about when I tell you to pray for it and God will show you. There will always be clues. The devil is in the details, and the devil was in his bar cart behind him while he's preaching about discernment, and how if you talk about it, it's not discernment from God, and how you're probably just this whiny little kid that never got listened to as a child, and now you're trying to overly exert yourself. He was like going all out, and it had nothing to do with the message. I thought it was going to tie in, because the guy, his partner, was like, this, just say that, you know, the last thing, so segue into our topic, and I thought it was going to tie in. It didn't tie in. It was just something that he was being triggered by, that obviously he needed to work on and go within, but he used it as an opportunity to go off and call people names and project his self onto them with the presumptuous notions left and right that didn't tie into the message at all. And I was like, oh my goodness, he needed to pray about this. He needed to pray to God about what God should do in his life, and if somebody called him out and discerned against him, what is it that he needs to bring to God, to put in God's hands to work on in his life, so that he is not being triggered anymore, that he can work on whatever he needs to change. But putting yourself in that vulnerable position is so hard. It's so hard to do, and that's why if it were easy, everybody would be doing it, but it is not easy. It's much easier to try and drag them back down, to try and put your hands on their ankles, be that crab in a bucket, and pull them back down by saying that they're a liar, and trying to dim their lie by saying they don't mean it, they haven't done the work, they haven't been called. It's so much easier to do that than to pray to God to choose you, to put you in a position to be qualified for the call, so that you can be used, and you can be this instrument, and you can be whatever he needs you to be to help everyone else. It's so much easier to hate on those people and to be that judge that God never made you, to call out liars when you don't know how far they had to come to sit there on that podcast and talk about all of these shameful things that they have done, and all of these millions of dollars that they gave up because they don't want to do that anymore. And God showed them what their worth was, and how they can be used, and how things will come back to them in the right way if they follow him and they change their life and they start walking on their path and doing the right things in order to get to that solid foundation where things can come to them in a healthy way, in a Christ-like way. Like, I don't understand. I saw this, well, I watched a lot of these lawn transformation shows, and I know I'm losing light here. I'm trying to turn and like get the light. The moon is like really bright. You guys see that? That is amazing. So I'll do this. People call me a devil worshiper for soaking up that lunar energy that God made for all of us, much like crystals and any other herbs and incense and yeah, God made it, but because I'm talking about it, it's idolatry. It's anything that you can think of to throw out there to say that it is not of God, when it is, and nobody's using it as an idol. Nobody, except you saying that to fit your narrative. But anyway, I watched the lawn transformation shows, and so I watched SB Mowing for a while. I still do. And then the Lawn Care Juggernaut, which he also has a boring channel. So the Lawn Care Juggernaut, on that channel, he had it overlaid. His work was he had a lot of Jordan Peterson on there, which I love. He had he had some sermons on there. Sometimes he was telling his testimony, and it was overlaid on his work. And then the boring channel was a lot of the same work and sometimes different, but it didn't have any talking. So it was for the people that liked it, and then the other one was for the people that didn't care to hear it. And so he gave them an option. And I had seen him on on one of the first videos that I watched of him where there was a bunch of trash on this like vacant abandoned lot, and instead of picking up the trash, which have only been like a bag worth of trash, he got on his mower and he rode around with his backpack blower on his backpack, and he blew all of this trash into a pile and just left it. And at the time there was nobody to compare his work to, so I was like, oh, that's kind of defeating the purpose. Like, yes, you mowed the lawn, but pick up the trash. There wasn't even that much, but he was just like, I'm just gonna do this. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that's how they do it. This is free work. He can do what he wants. He doesn't have to do any of this at all. And then I watched Spencer, and Spencer probably had the biggest following. I had my son watching it. I was like, I wish I could meet him one day. I want an SB mowing shirt. He probably has the most followers out of any of these lawn care channels. But he used to bag all of the trimmings up when he would expose sidewalks and do a lot of the edging, and people love that. People love when you break the shovel out. They love the noise. It's like ASMR for some people. They love just the satisfaction that you get from seeing this clean edges, and then on top of that he's doing the rest of the yard work and it's free and he's helping out people. Well, he would like load up the trimmings in his bags, and then he would haul it all off to the dump, and then he would tell people how much it weighed, because they weigh your truck or trailer when you go in, and then they weigh it and come out, and that's how they determine how much you pay for what you dumped. So he would do that, and then now he doesn't do that anymore. He hasn't hauled off anything. What he'll do is he'll fill up a wheelbarrow, and then he'll take that and like limbs and stuff that he's trimmed off the trees, and he'll put it on a different part of the property. And he started doing a lot of abandoned properties, so he wasn't really helping out anyone except for saying, I'm doing this for the neighborhood, I'm doing this for the community. And then Kevin, the lawn care juggernaut, went to Florida after the hurricane, and he took like an RV down there, and he's from Oklahoma. Spencer's from Kansas, but Kevin would go and do a bunch of these abandoned properties where their house got messed up from the hurricane, and they just relocated and never went back to their house. So there was this one or several houses, but the one on the block that looked horrible, he would clean it up for the neighborhood. So they both started doing abandoned properties, and Kevin never hauled anything off. And in Florida, if it's like in Tennessee, if you put it by the road, we have to call here. There's not just trucks that come around. You have to flag it for roadside pickup. But they would pile it up in Florida and say, which other people do this, like Owl Blades. What's the other channel that I watch? I watch Phil's Lawn Care, but the other one, AP, he does Clean the City in Florida. He's like Owl Blade's best friend. I know all of these lawn care people. I really hope to meet some of them one day. Especially AP from Clean the City. He is amazing. And Sean from Midlife Stockman. So anyway, I know in Florida they can pile it up, so I was like, whatever, when it came to him not cleaning up his stuff. But Spencer used to, and then he started hauling it to another part of the property, and he could do that because it was abandoned. He wasn't cleaning it up for anybody living there. And then here comes Midlife Stockman, and he not only before, he has a trailer now that somebody donated to him, but before that, well, it was a dump trailer that somebody donated, but he had like a regular like open trailer that he would haul stuff off. He has found so many like abandoned toilets. Even when he was doing abandoned properties, he would haul off the trash. He wouldn't just like leave it or blow it into a pile or relocate it behind, trying to be sly so that people wouldn't see it, but he would haul it off every time. The limbs, the trash, the dirt, whatever that he dug up and found, he would haul it off. And he would do all of the shoveling work, and then even along the way when it was a person that lived there, or maybe not even a person that lived there, he would fix the gutters, he would fix the fence, he would replace all of these things. He got a new roof for some people, donated completely free, or he started a GoFundMe for a guy who he wanted to fix his truck, but it couldn't be fixed, and they donated $15,000 so he could get this guy a new truck. I mean, he goes above and beyond, and now people are starting to call out these other guys that started out with a mission like Sean, but they have dwindled because they figured they could get that check and they didn't have to come out of pocket for disposal. They didn't have to keep helping people people. They just needed views and to put out content, regardless of what the content was, or the quality of their content, or the depth in which they were helping others, which is what drew people in the first place to these free lawn care channels. Of course, we love to see the transformations, of course, but the other was the huge thing. It's what touches your heart, that they're helping others with the work that they're doing, and they're able to do it for free because they're making money off of YouTube. But some of these guys just got so relaxed, and they were just doing it for the content to generate views and get the check. They didn't really want to do the level that they started off at, and they started cutting corners. And then here comes Sean, and he is blowing them out of the water with the community service that he's doing, and the level to which he is helping them, and how he doesn't cut any corners. He is constantly using the shovel and not his electric rake, as Kevin calls his on the Lawn Care Juggernaut. He doesn't do any of that stuff. So people started asking these guys, these OGs, in their comments, what do you do with the waste? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Because a real one showed up. And now Spencer is, he's gone back. He carried some trash, like pretended to carry it off, and then people were like, what did you do with it? I didn't see it on your truck, because at the end when he's wrapping up, he'll show his truck. He used to show that he would go to the dump. He doesn't show that anymore. There's obviously nothing on his truck, but he won't answer those questions. He just ignores them. And then Kevin gets on this soapbox and starts talking about how he's only got one back and he's not going to ruin his back. Fine, you don't have to do that. But then he goes on to say that he was the first one, and that he helped Al Blades start his channel, and Al Blades helped Midlife Stockman start his channel. I mean, you could just see that they are upset that people are calling them out for cutting these corners. So everybody thinks they're a real one until a real one shows up. And then the proof is in the pudding. And it is not for you to get on your soapbox or drag these people down. Let them be great. Let them answer the call. Let them be what God qualified them to be. It is not for you to get mad or call them out as a liar or try to disprove them with your agenda and cutting out little bits of content that takes what they're saying totally out of concept and just fits the propaganda that you're trying to spread, or demonize things that God made, that God gave us as tools to use. And when we start using them, they don't require church. They don't require a preacher. It shows us that we can go directly out into nature, that we can connect to God directly and cut all of that out, all of that demonic spewing propaganda, that crabs in a bucket lifestyle, those self-serving things. You can start to identify it and pick it apart and learn that you don't need any of that to connect with God, to be qualified, to answer the call, to do that hard work on yourself and leave those things that didn't serve you behind, so that you could elevate and step into your purpose and start helping others, start loving yourself, raise the vibrations, be wonderful without anyone else's consent, without anyone else judging you, without anyone but God calling you, tapping you, qualifying you, and putting you where He knew that you could rise up and be. And you don't have to compare yourself to anybody. Just try and be better than the person that you were yesterday, every single day going forward. That's all that you need. Don't let anyone drag you down. Anyone. You know if you've been called. You know if there's proof in your pudding. You know the work and the hard work that you put into that to answer the call, to surrender to that flow that God has for you. Is hard. It's anxiety ridden at first. It will worry you to death until you learn how to leave that behind too. And still you learn how to meditate. You learn how to breathe deeply so that the anxiety doesn't get the best of you, because after you've done it so many times, you learn that God is going to take care of you no matter what. Once I can fully talk about the things that I have been through and how surrendering to that flow made me so anxious at first, that I say, when you're tired, do it tired. When you're scared, do it scared, because He will help you to work through those nerves. And the more that you do it, the more that you practice it, the easier that it gets, just like anything else. It's hard at first, but once you surrender and you learn that you're going to be okay without these things that you thought you had to have, without that job that made money for you, God will provide. He will send strangers in to help you. He will open doors and give you opportunities that help you to continue to be provided for. Every single thing that you need will be there when you need it. He knows everything that you need. And He's not going to let you down. He's going to show up and show out when you give Him the opportunity to. When you hand it all over to Him. And if there's something that worries you, give it up to Him. Don't worry about it anymore after that. Don't cancel it out for yourself. Know that He's got you and that He's going to give you everything that you need right when you need it. That He's not going to call you and qualify you just to let you fall flat on your face. He's not going to do that. That's why He is qualifying you. That's why He is giving you everything that you need up front, so that when He blesses you, you will be able to sustain that. And He'll continue doing it for you if you continue trusting Him. So don't let all of the noise and the haters and the people trying to pull you back down block you, because they're just jealous. It's envy. It's all sin. It's what they're trying to throw salt on your name and accuse you of doing, but they are acting like a hypocrite in their judgmental behavior, and they're envious, and the ways that they're walking in, it is not of the Spirit of God. But they don't want to admit that, because they look at you and it's a mirror for them about how great that they could be if they would just keep their mouth shut and work just as hard for what God has for them. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. It's easier to do what they're doing. And if they have a group that reinforces them and enables them and backs them up by doing the same thing, then they're going to keep doing it, because they are receiving a reward for their behavior. Even though it's not the right community. It's not the right community if that's what they're doing. If they're enabling hate and envy and anger and condemnation, that's not a supportive community that God is working in. But they don't want to admit that, because if they're not directly connected to source, if they are idolizing a pastor or a church or some other thing that is self-serving to keep them there, to keep them dumbed down, to keep them in a box, they are not in the Spirit of God. That's not, God is not working there doing that. That's something else. That's something else. But they don't want to face that. They don't want to face that. It's easier to say that you're not in it than to look in the mirror and realize that they have gone off of their path. So don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you. If people are trying this hard, the path of the chosen is hard. Hard, hard, hard. So if people are trying that hard to bring you back down, to discredit you and condemn you, you are on the right path. Just know you are doing something that they don't want to work hard to do. They want to dim your light. They're hating on you for being chosen. But don't go back on answering your call. Don't ever, ever let tyranny gain a foothold, because you are in good conscience. You know what it took for you to get there. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not there and that you don't need to push forward because you're a liar. You know you're not. You know you're not crazy. You know you're not lazy. You know you're not any of those things, because it took you years to get where you are. Don't let it take seconds for somebody to break you back down with their lies because they don't want to do it. They could easily have what you have. They could easily work for God. But it's hard. It's hard. So that's what I wanted to say today. Everybody thinks they're a real one until a real one shows up, and then that's when their true colors, their true nature, their character actually starts to show, and the proof is in their pudding that they are not chosen. They could be if they would put themselves in the position to be by praying for it. But with your discernment that others are triggered by and projecting onto you their insecurities, don't let that stop you. You keep moving. You be that real one in the face of adversity. I love you. God loves you. You're never alone. I'll see you later. Bye.